Good morning, good afternoon, all, and thank you for joining us with Achievers Financial Education. And I'm Anitra Harrington, and I'm here to take and make sure we get you properly educated on all the fundamentals of financial literacy and anything that you may have not gotten taught before in whatever venue you might have been in school or wherever you might have gotten your financial education, or maybe haven't, then we're going to help you get up to speed on some of those things to make your life a lot better in your finances. So we went over previously on how to take care of a budget and some of the things that were a budget that was out of whack and didn't have the proper things that did not go into place, where somebody purchased a car and they didn't properly take the time to understand getting a car and the budget wasn't taken into consideration, and making sure we take and look at now how to take and go over some of the things that we talked about, which was paying ourselves first. And some people don't understand what that concept is because you probably never heard of it. And it's a big concept that a lot of people are not familiar with, but we're going to go over that in detail and talk about some other things that are very important that has to do around the concept of paying ourselves first. So some people don't realize how important that is because we work really hard for our money. And we take a lot of time to take and put in a long hours, depending on if you are somebody who works for yourself or if you work at a job and you're employed by someone, and you take a lot of time to take and put in hours, 10, 12, 8, however many hours it is that you take and put in. But regardless of that, it is really fundamental that you know that you pay a lot of your bills, and at the end of the time, you probably don't have any money left over. So we want to make sure you pay yourself first, so then you understand the concepts of making sure later on how that money is going to start to accrue and how we can take and make some ideas and things that you probably never heard of happen, and be able to take and make some spending things, changes and whatnot into your budget, and help those things change maybe for the better for your life overall. And that's the concept of what we're doing overall for this whole concept, is to make your life better in every aspect of it. Because if we have money, how different our lives would be. And a lot of times people say money revolves around it, but no, it's our mindset. So if we can help to change some things about your mindset and change some things of how we can make things move in a different direction, then those things will help us overall and make things a lot better in that aspect. So we're going to start to touch on some of the fundamentals, and I'm going to go over one of the workbooks that we go over that helps to talk about how to pay ourselves first. So one of the things is that you guys, like I told you, we take and gonna go over this booklet that we have that is really, really great. And it goes over a lot of different things, but you guys, we're gonna just touch on some basics, and then we'll get down to the nitty gritty as we start to go through it. So I hope you guys make sure you tune in with us on a regular. We're on all the social media platforms that I didn't get to mention in the beginning. So that means that we're on Facebook, we're on Instagram, we're on YouTube, and this happens on every Thursday at 5 p.m. So make sure you're tuned in so you don't miss out. And it is available in Creole for some of you guys that speak in Creole. I'm the English version, so you guys get to. And we also will have a Spanish version for those of you that, you know, habla en español también, okay? So for you guys that are looking forward to some of that as well. So here we go. All right, so pay yourself first, and that's important. So a lot of times you guys don't know that's the fundamental, and the problem is that at the end of the month, what happens? You put all this hard-working money, and you don't have any money that's left over. So before you take and dish out all your money to all the bills that we have that come in on a regular basis that we went over in the budget, a lot of times we have on here that you have a commitment. It's a commitment to yourself, honestly. So if you start to think about it and you say, I'm going to take a commitment to myself and say, I'm going to respect myself, to say, I'm going to make sure I'm going to put aside a set dollar amount for money because I work really hard and I have a goal that I want to achieve. So like I was mentioning is that, you know, we work really hard and we take and do all these hours and, you know, and pay all these bills. And at the end is when you look down at your wallet or pocket or paychecks or bank account, and then you say, okay, then I'm going to save. But then is when you realize I don't have any money left. And the money I was considering to save towards this goal that I was trying to achieve, I don't have any money. Now I'm going to have to wait till the next time I get paid, or the next month I get paid, or whenever it is that I'm going to take and say I'm going to set aside for this goal. And that next time never really happens because we keep putting it off. So then how often is it that you're really going to save towards that goal? And it's like you start to think about it in your head. You have to start to change that mindset to switch it so that it's not going to be, I'm going to wait till the end when all of the money is gone out the window and you have no money left. You have to start to switch it and change it to say when the money comes in. Because if not, you're never going to save. You're never going to get to that goal. And at the end of the day, you're never going to achieve whatever financial dream or goal or whatever it is that you're looking for to get done. And that's how we get into that cycle that we're always trying to save, and it's like chasing the rabbit in that wheel with the hamster wheel, and you're never getting there because you're not getting off that hamster wheel. So let's get off that hamster wheel and start to change into something else that's going to help us down the right path so that you can get to where you really want to go. So even if it's not a huge amount of money, but it's something that you can say, I can set aside this set amount of money, even if it's $10. To say I can set aside this $10 before I take and pay out all of my bills, and I'm going to pay myself first. And I'm going to do this consistently every time I get paid. So then that way at the end, I will have something to look forward to. So at the end, if you say I get paid every 2 weeks, for example, and there's 26 cycles in a pay period if you say that's, every time you get paid. Or if I get paid every month, then that's 12 months, so that's 12 cycles in a pay period. But if that's $10, remember, that's 26 pay periods for bi-weekly. That means that you now have $260 that you set aside, and you don't think about that money, and that's something that's a solution. Now you have $260 that you saved. But people don't think about it like that because remember, that's something that's a big deal. But if you start to think about it in that concept, it is going to start to build over time. And then we're going to show you what you can do with that money over time to get you going in the right direction. Now, it's the same thing as far as, being saving for that, that you get paid every month. It's $120, or if you can save more than that $10, you can put $20. It's the same amount that you're going to get, in that concept. But that's where I'm telling you, change that mindset to get things going in a different direction. And it's not I can't. Get that I can't out of your mindset and out of your mouth. And then you get to say, I can do something different. Because mindset is the biggest concept that we have to change our ways of thinking. If you can overcome anything in your mind to say, I can do something different, we can change our diet, we can change our lifestyles, we can change anything. Think of how Nelson Mandela was locked away and how he changed his mindset was completely different than how a lot of us, how we think. So if you can change that, you can change the world. And that's how we're going to change your bank account. So let's start there. And that's how we're going to change your family and the dynamics of how you can save your money. So the solution we got going on here for you is that at the first time you get paid, so it's the first of the month or first time you get ready to get paid, before you pay anyone else or anything else, you're going to take and start, like I mentioned, take that money out. And like I said, no, it says 10% of your income. For some people, it's a lot. So that's why I say take out a little bit, and then you can start to move towards those milestones a little bit more, on a little bit more. So if that way you can start, some people can do it. It's just that you have your money into other things. Maybe you have, you go get your nails done on a regular every week basis. Maybe you can wait till you go get that filling. And I know some people that's a push. Or you can switch out some other things, not eating out or not going to go and eat lunch all the time, and you can pack some leftovers. Some things like that, switching it around, and that's things that we can help you to take and look at different ways to see how you can accommodate and make switches up in your budget to make things happen in a better way. That way you're not throwing money out the window and putting it towards something that you can actually attain for a goal that you're looking for. Because a lot of times people don't think about that, and they say, well, I don't have it. But if you look within your budget, there may be some ways we can help you change. And maybe there's something else we can help you do otherwise, and look at other ways to help you, maybe to, do some other things as well. We can talk about later on, and some of the other future ways of how you can do as well. Because sometimes there may be other avenues that you can look at instead of just saying, I don't have it, because you don't have the goals or things of the creative ways of thinking. All right. So that's, like I mentioned, there was a problem, and I just identified it and how it's going to paying it at the end. We're going to change it to the beginning. And now we're going to start, like I said, even if it's small, it's a little bit, but that's a change. And then we're going to take in, like I mentioned, change it up So we're going to take and put it into different accounts. So sometimes people have never heard of this concept, and that's why I said that's why we're here. So we can make sure we change up your mind and switch up some ways of how you think. Because a lot of people have never heard of this, but it is dynamic and it is changing in some ways of how you put your money. So one of the ways is that you have an emergency account. Instead of the emergency account that a lot of us have, which is called a credit card, we take and have money that's set aside. And an emergency account means that you have at least 3 months of money that you have allocated aside. And I know most of us don't, because most of us don't even have $100 or $500 set aside in our bank accounts to take and have if our car breaks down, or if you have some medical emergency that you have to pay towards a deductible, or you don't have insurance. And that's things that, a lot of things that are other that you have to get fixed or adjusted, but or you just have an emergency that came up for whatever it is. But if you have 3 months of your income that's set aside in that emergency fund that we were talking about, taking a set aside, paying your money first, and it starts to accumulate, and those emergencies don't happen, and you have money that has grown in that account, woohoo, thank goodness. Now we got some money that's saved so we can actually be able to grow. And then that's one diamond in the bucket, okay? So now we can start to look towards the next bucket that you have on there, which is a short term. And a short term fund, that means that you have 6 months of income that you have that you can be able to grow for purchases that you maybe want to have in the next 3 to 5 years. So like maybe you want to buy a new car. Most people just go and decide, okay, I'm going to go buy a new car. But some people like to plan. I'm a planner. So I start to allocate funds to say, okay, what am I going to do before this car breaks down, or before we go and take and just funnel this money into a new car? You're going to take and think about, what am I going to do to get to this new car? And how am I going to achieve it? So that way you're not going to pay a high interest rate on a car and you don't have a down payment for the car. Or you may be able to purchase it and have some negotiations in getting that car, because you have a higher amount that you can put down on the car, then you don't pay so much for it. And how would it be such a great thing to be able to pay a car out in cash, or not to pay all of it that's financed, or whatever it may be. So then that gives you some leeway, like I mentioned. So you have a reserve for unforeseen, events, or if you even lost your jobs. A lot of people have lost their jobs during COVID, and some people had a short-term account, so they were okay, and they didn't have to go, like, oh my God, how are we going to manage, because they had a short-term account. Because some people were educated in having this type of way of setup, but not everybody was in that way. And then also having a down payment for a house. A lot of people don't understand that's how you can actually start to take and build that way of doing. I know the housing market right now might not be in the greatest concept of things, but it's not going to always stay that way. Things always grow up and down. It doesn't grow in a straight line or just straight up like that. But imagine you have all of these things starting to grow, and you have at least 6 months of income that is set in a bank account. How would you feel? Think about it, whatever it is your income is that you have set aside, and now you have a second account, not just the first one, but you have a second account is growing, and you have 6 months of income that's grown in there. I know you probably be on fire right now and probably want to go spend it all, but that's not how we're going to be, because you have to be disciplined. And being disciplined means that you have a goal in mind, and you have changed your mindset to think that money I have set up is going to be set into something that I can actually start to grow and have things. And then the last account is a wealth building account. And a lot of you guys already know what that is, because your job probably forces you to do it and you don't even know, or you sign up with the job and they just gives it to you automatically, and they withdraw it from your account, or they give you that benefit, which means that you have enough money to grow for retirement and be able to take and have some money. Some will match it if you put money with it. Some don't, and they just take it automatically out of your accounts. Some of them, like with the county or the school system and some of those type of things, they automatically give you, that kind of thing with it that goes with it. But those that may not have the luxury of having that ability with it, you can also open your own. And you can have it where you have money that grows with it. And we'll talk about it in another segment where you can have tax-free money growing as well. And I know you probably say, what? How would it be so freaking awesome not to have to pay taxes on your money, right? I get so excited about that. So I know the one thing we always have to look forward to is paying taxes, but how would you feel not to have to pay that? But that's something we can talk about on another segment. But what I tell you about it is that you have a wealth building account, and that's for for enough to enjoy your retirement. And you don't have to be worrying about Uncle Sam's money only that's growing, and that's called your Social Security. So is that money that you're going to be guaranteed? Who knows if it's going to be there or not? But how would you like to make sure you have your own? So those are the 3 different accounts I just mentioned to you. You have your emergency fund account, you have your short-term account, and then you have your long-term wealth building account. So those are the 3 different funds. And if you only start off with $10, and over time it starts to grow to maybe $50 a month, and then you start to have $100 a month, and then before you know it, you have these funds that have grown into, you know, almost 100,000. And then before you know it, you have all this money that you have a legacy that you've grown into. And how many people would love to leave a legacy behind, and you only started off with $10 a month, that you can start to tell these stories to your grandkids and great-grandkids, because you change your mindset and you change the way of your thinking, and you can tell them the same thing. So those are some things that we want to convey to you guys to be able to help you to be able to see things in a different light. So I hope it made some sense. I hope it landed for you, and I hope that it made some you know, kind of concept. And if it did, please put it in the comments. Let us know if it makes sense to you. We're always going to be able to help address some of the questions that you have and concerns by putting some of those things, like I said, on our comments, and follow us for more information. We look forward to hearing from you. Thank you.
Welcome back on our platform, Achievers Financial Education. Today we're going over paying yourself first. You have Fabienne Seniors, and I also have Anitra Harrington. You mentioned, Anitra, paying yourself first is about 10% of your income that you have to put aside. But I know, just like as our viewers are watching, usually when we have money, we pay our bills, and whatever we have left, we usually go shopping, we do our nails, make sure we get our hair done, and other extra things that we probably will need. So how, if someone don't really have that 10%, how can they really start saving or start investing, just like you mentioned, on these 3 accounts that you mentioned?
So like I mentioned, is that some of those things that you guys were talking about, are those necessities, or are those things actual just things that you doing because you found some money that were left over? So first of all, what I mentioned is that when you pay yourself first, you're going to take the money off the top in the beginning, and not take the money as it's money that's left over. Because when you budget, when we went over the budget in the first part of it, we talked about having the budget putting in those things that you already have budgeted for. So if those things were part of your budget and those are necessities that you're going to put in place, then of course you're going to make sure you've taken budget for those things. Now, after, if you're going to take and have your 10% that you already took out initially, and you take and make sure your 10% is set aside and your budgeted items that you have listed in there, then you take and make sure those things are going to be taken care of a part of your budget. So if your hair and makeup and nails and whatever are part of your budget and those things, of course they're going to be a part of those that you have as a necessity. But paying yourself first, it should be the first and foremost. That's, you worked hard for your money, right? And you took and you are doing it as a respect for yourself, because remember, you have goals. You have a goal, maybe one day you want to take and get a house. Maybe you have a goal that you want to take and travel the world, or you want to do some nice trip for yourself. Or maybe you have a goal that you decided that you want to purchase a new car. And those things, you have discipline to take and do what you need to have for it. So being able to take and say, I want to get those things achieved, then you get to say, yes, I want to be able to get those things done. So by doing that, that makes sure you're being able to take and say, I want to get those things done for myself. So if you don't do that, then what's going to happen? Your goals and the things that you're trying to achieve are not going to be done as such. So that's how you're going to make sure you pay yourself first, because a lot of times people don't consider that, and then you're not respecting yourself or the goals that you're trying to achieve. Or you just, maybe you just want to have bankroll, right? You just want the bag. And you want to have that 10 or 20,000 because you want to have money that's set aside for yourself in general. So paying yourself first makes sure you have that 10% set aside. And maybe some people can say, I don't have the 10%.
The 10%, yes.
So like I said, maybe setting aside, if it's a certain amount, $50 or $10, and you start off small and then you gradually start to grow and doing that way of getting it to that, then you can do that. But it's not saying that you can't do it at all.
Okay.
Because a lot of times people take and say, oh, I'll just do what I can, and it may not be, you know, something that's actually budgeted every time, and that's not actually being disciplined. If you're going to say, I'm going to do it just like you tithe, you do the same thing that you're going to do when you take and put in for that money amount. So if it's to take and say, I'm going to put down $50 that I can actually say I'm going to pay myself because I worked really hard for that money. So I'm going to put that $50 every time I get paid. If it's 26 pay cycles, I'm going to put that $50 in every time. And in that way, you have that money at the end, and your goals are going to start to grow over time.
Okay, so we don't need to focus on the 10%, but as long as we start small.
Yeah.
Okay. We just want to thank all the viewers today that just watched the show. We thank you, and we hope that you can put into practice everything that you learned today. We can start small and we grow until we make it to that 10%. And we want to thank our trainer today, Miss Anitra Harrington. And until next time, see you next week on Thursday at 5 p.m.